and he's with us now. Steve, great to have you, man.
Thanks, John. Good to be on.
Let's start with the Bo Belinsky interview on Tucker Carlson yesterday. Does this finally break the silence of the fake news?
Listen, I don't think it does. I mean, it was so stunning to hear this and the allegations and Biden lies. I mean, this is now, remember, I say there's no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences. This is why Biden's been off the campaign trail virtually, except for 3 or 4 very small events with no real press avails since the New York Post broke this story now almost 2 weeks ago. And last night you saw, because the Bidens have no answers for this. And quite frankly, this guy walked through in detail just the outright lies Joe Biden told. Remember, this is not about Hunter Biden. This is about Joe Biden. And really, Bo Belinsky summed it up last night. He said they're compromised. They're compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. 2 things happened yesterday. Raheem Kassam in the hard drive finally started getting into the audio and released Hunter Biden talking about how Patrick Ho and his chairman Yu, the Chinese energy company, were Chinese spies. And these guys knew it. I mean, he was actually talking on the phone with somebody. He self-recorded himself, put it on his computer, and he's very blatantly talking about Patrick Ho as the chief of Chinese spies and how Chairman Yi is a Chinese intelligence asset, just openly. And then we found from Bo Belinsky last night that Hunter Biden was the personal lawyer, signed $1 million retainer to be the personal lawyer to Chairman Yi, someone that he thought was a member of Chinese intelligence. The revelations are so stunning. But here's the thing for your audience, that I think we're entering a period of real danger. I talked to some of the biggest, grassroots conservative organizations last night, and they're already telling me that they're not able to communicate on Facebook like they would because Facebook won't take any ads, right? They've cut that whole thing of cutting it down 10 days before before Election Day. And if you look at the mainstream media last night, because I know most of these guys, none of the mainstream media touched Bo Belinsky's, interview at all. You don't see CNN, you don't see MSNBC, you don't see NBC News, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Complete silence. Whether you love Trump or hate Trump, this is major news. And I got to tell you, because this is not going to go away. Whether President Trump wins re-election on next Tuesday, or the Biden forces are able to steal it somehow, the revelations that Bo Belinsky went through are going to go far past November 3rd. I mean, this shows a major, major, major breakdown of American intelligence, American national security. This is one of the things I've been harping on for a long time, is that how can people focus on Russia, and how can they just go Russia, 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 when China is an existential threat? The Chinese have infiltrated every part of American life with their cash, the Chinese Communist Party, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's corporate America, whether it's our cultural institutions, whether it's the Vatican, or now the permanent political class. And you absolutely see the brains of the operation of Joe Biden's brother, James Biden, who literally has a industry set up to monetize access to a vice president of the United States and a potential president of the United States. And when confronted by the guy who's supposed to be the outward-facing guy and running this, the guy, really the honest guy who they put in an interview and make sure that he's the guy that can actually get things done. And he's a naval officer, former naval officer with a very high security clearance. He asked James one time, he says, how do you, with all what you're doing, how do you expect to not get dinged by the intelligence community of this? And James Biden says plausible deniability.
Right.
Now, plausible deniability is a haunting term. That is the term that came right from the tapes of Watergate.
Right.
That was the entire situation. That's why Richard Nixon did not finish his second term. The whole concept there was plausible deniability, which is a term of art for people in positions of authority to have just enough room to be able to spin away from what their actions are. So Biden has now shown, I think, in the last 2 weeks, because of the hard drive, because of the 26,000 emails that Peter Schweizer's coming out, because of Bo Belinsky's affidavit and others, it's a family that for many years, and this is what the permanent political class does. This to me is a great lesson, because I keep saying there's no conspiracy. This is the business model. This is how the system works, and you're seeing how the system works. I think you're starting to see people being shocked. There was a thing on TikTok last night of a young woman who, has got blue hair, and she's on a plane, and I'll send it to you, John, but she says she hates Trump, has always hated Trump, thought when Trump was elected in 16, it was the end of America. And she just announced she had I voted 10, and she just said, I just voted for Donald Trump. And she said, everything that came out on this laptop, everything she's seen about Biden, she just can't support a guy that looks like it has this much corruption, plus all these personal family problems, all these issues. So it's definitely getting huge traction. It's the number one story, even with the suppression, and suppression because of the Streisand effect, which is, what you try to cover up on the internet actually gets a bigger audience. It's out everywhere. That being said, you don't see the mainstream media covering this at all. In fact, last night, after those massive revelations of Joe Biden just lying to the American people and using his office for personal gain, and not just that, it's not just the personal gain, it's actually being in business with people that they know are enemies of the United States, the Chinese Communist Party, at the highest levels. To know that and the media won't cover it, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, next Tuesday is going to be something unique in American history. So strap in, okay? Because the oligarchs in Silicon Valley are going to be against you. The mainstream media is going to get against you. I mean, CNN and these guys right now are not even making any pretense of objectivity. This is information warfare at its highest and most brutal level. So I would be prepared to be strapped in next week.
We're going to do an event in Richmond between now and Friday where you can come down and basically outline this and, invite the media, because they're not going to come. We'll get the star there. But, Steve, is there going to be an accounting? In fact, that we have it now, a free media in the country that's deciding not to cover the story because it hurts their candidate and doing it in conjunction with each other. It's everybody. It's USA Today, it's Gannett, it's McClatchy, it's Washington Post, LA Times, Tribune Company, everybody, MSNBC, everybody.
There's no more right and left, really. There's no more conservative and progressive. You're now getting, I think, to the point of you're seeing populist, nationalist versus globalist. And what you have is the corporate media is the propaganda wing or the information wing of the globalist program. And this is not a conspiracy. It's just the way the system works. And they're not prepared to give it up. And they're particularly not prepared to give it up to people that they think are not worthy of it, not smart enough, and that would be the deplorables. Or Lao Beijing in China. This is why we do this broadcast, to try to unite these people and understand the commonality of their existence and the commonality of their potential, the commonality of their nobility, and the commonality that we've got to win. But here's the only way you're going to change it. You're going to have to win. If you win, you've got a chance to change it. If you don't win, you're going to have a resistance movement that is really going to have to hunker down. But I can tell you, over the last 3 weeks, I don't think we've had better tells than what the oligarchs in Silicon Valley have in mind, and now their combination with the mainstream media. It's very haunting that I think a month and a half ago on one of my shows, Miles Guo said he listened to the 5 weapons the Chinese Communist Party have, which is one of the most powerful entities on earth, with a massive nuclear arsenal, huge military. And he said their number one weapon is social media. And to deal with working with these Chinese expatriates over the last couple of weeks, what every American should find most chilling, because these people, to a degree, have a very eyes of wonder look of freedom and democracy, and this is what they're aiming for to turn China into. And I've had so many of those people that work so hard, expatriates from Australia to New Zealand, Canada, the United States, tell me the firewall in America is almost as powerful as the firewall in China. That you just literally because they see this information is out there, and they see the mainstream media that won't cover it, social media that won't promote it, the Twitter take down Kayleigh McEnany and the people at the White House. They have these people that on President Trump's Twitter, they say the information is not correct. So it's pretty stunning, but people have to understand that what we're heading into is going to be a very rough ride. Because don't think for a second, given everything you're talking about the enthusiasm, in particular, I think you're seeing where the Democrats right now, at least as I see the numbers, now that could change, and this thing changes hour by hour. But as I see the numbers, you don't see the 18 to 29-year-olds, the 18 to 39-year-olds, particularly 18 to 29-year-olds. You just don't see them showing up in the early voting or the absentee voting like I think the Democrats intended to. But that being said, don't think there's any easy path to victory here. It's not going to be an easy path to victory. They're not going to give this up, and they're not going to, under no circumstances, it's Hillary Clinton's thing. They will not concede on this. will not concede. Even a Trump victory, they will not concede. This will, like I said, it will be Stalingrad every day. So people have to be prepared.
Define not conceding. Trump wins on game day. Here's the pathway. He's going to win Florida, Steve. Everything we see exceeding expectations. Florida is going to get called. Forget the mail-in ballots. There aren't enough of them. Florida's going to get called. We're going to be ahead big in North Carolina, right? Then they start saying, well, we can't call Pennsylvania, can't call Michigan, can't call Minnesota, can't call any of these because of mail-in ballots. Okay, we get that. So he wins Georgia, wins Texas, wins all these states, up big, claims victory, ahead everywhere, and then the votes come in, and there's not enough phony ballots.
Then we're going to go to court. Then you got to get into the certification of these ballots. Remember, every ballot, and you see the fights every day. We're going to try to get Bill McGinley back on today. And by the way, one of the reasons the show is, I'm so proud of the show and our thing of the signal, not the noise, in tomorrow's news today. Everything McGinley talked about in the 10 o'clock hour yesterday all happened last night. Right? These lawsuits. And so, no, I think the president, my strongest recommendation is walk in the Oval Office at 10 o'clock, tweet, dare the media to cover it, declare you're the winner, and then let's get it on, right? And then if a ballot has been sent by mail, and it meets all the requirements of what that state lays out, it should be, and the courts have backed that up, it should be certified. That vote counts. Absolutely. You have to count it those votes. If there's one scintilla of difference in that, then it's not certifiable, right? And that's why the Trump campaign and the Trump movement and the Republican Party have got to have the right people in those canvassing rooms, the right people in those counting rooms. No better example of this than what happened in Lynchburg. Right, no better example of this, of how the Democrats and the progressives are going to try to dominate these canvassing rooms.
Yeah, because the Republicans didn't have anybody there, and to get around the law, and we did a big story on this in the Virginia Star, to get around the law, they had Democrats change their party affiliation to unaffiliated at the last minute. Therefore, they said, we're unaffiliated now, even though these were hard-in-the-wool Democrats. So we didn't have any people there, and so they're counting votes with no Republicans. I mean, give me a break. This is why we need people. Hey, look, if you're in Virginia, we need your help, and you get paid, be a poll watcher, election worker. All you got to do is email my deputy director, Riley Mahoney, riley.mahoney@gop.com, riley.mahoney@gop.com. She will plug you in.
And listen, the presidential campaign could come down to Virginia 2 and Virginia 7. If you flip those districts and flip the delegation of Virginia to the Republican category, I still believe, as I see tonight, and look, I love your enthusiasm, but I tell people, run through the tape here. You have to run through the tape because every vote's going to matter here. Like in Florida, you got to be honest. The Trump campaign's just out of cash, right? They're out of money, and they're coming down in Florida. They corrected the Bloomberg story yesterday to get more accurate, but you see this morning that Bloomberg's putting $15 million into Texas. These guys have a massive financial advantage over us, and they're going to flood the zone to try to get low-propensity voters out there in the next 6 days. That is something we have to run through the tape. Nobody can lean on a rake here and think we got this because we're having car rallies. That's all great. And
you got to put your shoulder to the wheel. But I tell you what, Steve, they can run all the TV ads and social media ads they want. They can do that. We got the ground game, and I mean that's our advantage. We have used that. That's why everybody's got to get involved in this thing in the final 6 days. Steve, I just want you to shut your eyes a minute and go back in history. Here we are, October 28th, 2016. You're in Trump Tower. I'm in Trump Tower. Ann's there. There was only a handful of us that thought he was going to win. You were one of them. If you go back in time...
You were my only guy. The John Fredericks origin narrative is that he was the only guy to show up for our radio row. We had a radio row on the 14th floor. Our big idea, let's get conservative talk radio there. One guy shows up.
I was there for 5 days.
That's when he came to Oracle, the Deplorable right then.
Ann and I were there for 5 days. We had to get Brian Lanza, who was on your team. Yeah. Brian Lanza, really a great guy. He had to get up every day at 4:30 a.m. to escort us in at 5:15. But if you go back, October 28, 2016, how do we compare today, 2020, to 2016, same time frame?
It's going to be a tough fight. People should not look. If we win in a landslide, God bless us. But we should assume right now we're behind, and we've got to drive this hard in everything. And I think certain areas are popping up where this is going to be critically important. That's why I think the Biden laptop from hell. I think heavily Catholic Wisconsin and heavily Catholic Northeast Pennsylvania could be two central things of this. We also have to hold Georgia. We also have to hold Arizona. I think glorious ACB is going to play a very big role in that, not just the Supreme Court. I think she's going to bring home some establishment Republicans. Once again, we have to have all the establishment Republicans, or many of them, come back, particularly in Arizona, particularly some of the Mormon population that follows Romney and the people that follow Sidney McCain. So Arizona, we don't want to get a surprise on election night that Arizona or Georgia somehow slip through our grasp. So, and remember, we're running against a huge financial advantage of the Democrats right now. Forget how we got here. That'll be adjudicated later. But right now, the fact is that they have overwhelming financial resources and are literally flooding the zone. That being said, I've always looked at the polling, I think, is best at the congressional district level. And, we saw movements. That's why you remember how confident I was that we could do this, because I could see this thing moving our way. Right now, I do think you're having Trump momentum, but it's going to get down to ground game and low propensity voters. This is going to be door to door. And it's going to be people, the Trump movement and Pay Chase and the RNC, who I think is Ron and these guys have done a great job with the ground game, and particularly the databases we have to get every vote out there. Everybody in this audience ought to understand something. Right now, you're an incredibly powerful force multiplier in two regards. You should be spending every hour of your day pushing out on social media, pushing out to your friends, pushing out to people you know. All of these stories are coming out about the hard drive and other things about Trump's momentum. You should just you're a force multiplier there, right? Number one. Number two, it's 10 for 20. The sponsors of your show, go there or go anywhere. If you as an individual can bring 10 people, right, to make them vote, and particularly low propensity people who may be disengaged. And all people have to do is look at what the corporate media is doing on Philadelphia. There are major riots around the nation over the last 24, 48 hours that is not being covered by corporate media because they realize that's going to play badly, right? And they don't want to show it. So you can be a force multiplier of media. Every person out there is as important as any time in history to combat the information warfare of the mainstream media. That's number one. Number two, your force multiplier on where this is going to be decided is on the ground, not by commercials. It's going to be decided on the ground. And that's where every individual, you can work a phone bank, you can go knock on doors, you got 6 days, and trust me, this is, don't believe the mainstream media that's over because, 80 million people have voted. There's a lot of voting to go here. There probably, I think right now, it could be 150 million votes cast, which would be stunning, or maybe even more. So everybody out there has just got to get to work. You got 6 days, and we can't, if you love your country and you want to keep this as a republic, and you see the tech oligarchs, the mainstream media, the corporate the Wall Street factions, right, who are now openly aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. Remember, Ant, the financial firm started by Jack Ma and Alibaba, just raised $34 billion, much of it coming from your audience, the Deplorable's pension funds, insurance policies. So we're at the very early stages of this revolt against the globalists. And if we win on Tuesday, we'll be able to take this fight another day. If we don't win on Tuesday, and that'll be because of people's efforts, then we're going to have a much longer and tougher fight.
Steve, we got 6 days. When are you going to do Vox Populi?
You tell me. I'm available 24/7. I'm doing speeches nonstop. I'm contacting the.
I think we go up. I think I go up.
The John Fredericks Radio Network has got the most powerful connection with the Deplorables. Starting from those 5 days, you came in at 5:15 in the morning. We had to let you in the building, specially Brian Lanza. That's where the legend started, John. So I'm available to use anytime.
Let's come to the embassy. You want to do 3 to 6 on Friday?
I'll do whatever you want to do. 3 to 6 on Friday, done.
All right, done.
Good.
Vox Populi, Steve Bannon taking calls 3 to 6 on Friday, taking your calls on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. I'll see you on Friday at the embassy.